Hitman World of Assassination for the PSVR2. I waited about a month after this game had been released to start reviewing it because I wanted to wait until it was properly patched. I bought the game on launch day and immediately played it, but it was noticeably bugged and kept crashing on me. A lot. I went through something similar with Behemoth, where I started playing and reviewing the game on launch day, but there were just so many bugs that it really diminished my enjoyment. Many of those bugs were resolved in subsequent patches that rendered much of the criticism in my initial review moot. I mentioned in my Behemoth video that this is a problem of being a day one adapter, that the price you pay for early access is being an unwitting bug tester for the devs. So this time I decided to wait until Hitman received its first patch to review it, especially because prior Hitman VR games had been poorly received. Well, I'm happy to say that with the latest patches, most of the game-breaking bugs I encountered have been fixed, and I can now declare Hitman World of Assassination one of the best games you can play for the PSVR2. But before we get into that, if you could please like this video and subscribe to this channel, it would mean a lot to me. I'm not a full-time YouTuber, and I only do this for the love of VR, so your support really helps to keep the channel going. Thanks in advance. For those of you unfamiliar with the Hitman series, it deals with an assassin named Agent 47 who works for a clandestine organization taking out high-profile targets around the world. Hitman World of Assassination is a compilation of a recent trilogy of games in this series, 2016's Hitman, 2018's Hitman 2, and 2021's Hitman 3. Now, I never played these games on flat screen, but apparently they were released episodically, and that has created quite a bit of confusion about how exactly you should purchase this game from the many different options in the PlayStation Store. Your first mission, should you choose to accept it, is to figure out how to access all the Hitman VR content. I want to give a shout out to Reddit user iscreamsunday, great name by the way, who made an 11-page quick start guide which includes a flowchart on how to purchase the game and access all of the VR content. I'll link to their Reddit post in the description below. The short version, though, is that VR compatibility extends to all levels of the first 3 games, as well as 2 additional DLC levels for Hitman 2. You'll need the PS5 versions to play on the PSVR 2. If you don't already own the game, then buying the deluxe version is probably the easiest way to ensure you have access to all the VR compatible content. But it's pretty pricey at about $100, so you may want to wait for it to go on sale. There are other, more convoluted ways to go about this. For example, I bought World of Assassination Part 1, which is basically just the first game, then bought an in-game upgrade pack to get the next 2 games, then finally purchased the additional DLC levels. The reason I did it this way is because it was the cheapest option at the time with the way the game was discounted. The best way to find out the most current deal at any given time would be to pop into the PSVR subreddit. Deals are regularly shared there not only for Hitman, but for many other popular games as well. Anyway, after you've managed to compile all the needed content, you'll still have to pay $10 for the PSVR 2 upgrade. It sounds like a lot of money, and I'll admit the process is unnecessarily convoluted, but at the end of the day, it cost me about $60 total for all the VR content, which I think was well worth it. Now, to get the game started in VR, you need to turn VR mode on at the main menu. After you do this, you may need to reset the game for it to work, but thereafter it should automatically detect the PSVR 2 if it's turned on, and the game should boot up in VR by default. I would highly recommend that you do the VR tutorial even if you have prior experience with the Hitman series. You can find it by highlighting this load box and scrolling to the right or left until the tutorial option shows up. This will familiarize you with the mechanics specific to this version of the game, most of which are fairly standard VR controls. The other thing I would recommend before you start the main story is to enable autosave if you so choose. When you're playing the prologue, the game will give you a message that autosave is disabled in VR, but you can turn it on right here. I honestly have no idea why this isn't enabled by default or why they don't tell you there's an option to turn it on, but there you go. The game is called World of Assassination because each level of this game takes place in a different part of the world. These include famous cities such as Paris, as well as more remote locations like rural Colorado. Some of these locations look amazing in VR.
Isn't this beautiful?
Oh, yes, it's wonderful.
I'll never forget being at the Paris location and watching the sun shine off the Eiffel Tower. I've been to Paris before, and this is the closest I've ever felt to being there without actually visiting. Now, I do want to temper expectations a bit with respect to the scale of the levels. It's not like you can just stroll off and explore the Louvre or the Arc de Triomphe or anything like that. This isn't a game like GTA where there's an entire city to explore. Instead, you get small, self-contained areas. However, the developers make the most of the areas you're given access to, and the cityscapes in the background can really add a lot of atmosphere to the surroundings. One of my favorite examples is Chongqing, which gives off an East Asian cyberpunk vibe, with the Chinese characters glowing in neon lights, and the modern skyscrapers putting on laser light shows in the distance. I've never been to Chongqing, but this game made me curious about visiting someday in real life. Some of the other maps can be a bit underwhelming in terms of their cityscape. For example, the New York map takes place entirely within the confines of a bank. It's a fun level, but you're not going to get a glimpse of New York's iconic skyline or walk the city streets or anything like that. The other thing I really like about these levels is they're populated with NPCs. One of the main issues I have with lots of VR games is that they feel so empty unless you're fighting enemies, and your only real interactions with NPCs seems to happen during cutscenes. Not true in Hitman, where NPCs fill the landscape and engage in colorful conversation. Much of it's just flavor dialogue, but sometimes eavesdropping on a conversation can reveal important information, unlocking story-specific quests and providing clues on how to complete them. This might be a good time to mention that you can play the levels of Hitman in any order you want by simply selecting them from the Destinations menu. However, there is a story here, so if you want to enjoy that, then you're better off playing the levels in sequence. The game will give you a spoiler warning if you jump ahead, so just be aware of making that choice at your own risk. Each level is relatively short if all you want to do is complete the main objectives, which usually consist of eliminating a few targets, along with maybe destroying or retrieving a certain item. The fun of Hitman and the replayability of the game lies in the multiple ways that you can go about accomplishing these tasks. There are various ways to eliminate the targets and explore each level, and Hitman provides a list of achievements to guide you through the different ways to do this. Each time you complete a level, you'll gain experience points for completing certain tasks, and this will unlock various rewards such as new starting locations and disguises. Yeah, we need to talk about disguises because they're really the crux of the gameplay. A bunch of areas on the map will be restricted depending on what outfit you're wearing, and if somebody catches you trespassing, it'll alert the guards, so you'll need to constantly change clothes in order to blend in and progress through the levels. You do this by sneaking up behind people, choking them out, stealing their clothes, and throwing them into boxes. Some of the disguises are pretty routine, like blending in as a kitchen staff or a security guard, but some of them look ridiculous, like disguising yourself as a clown or a scarecrow, and you can have lots of fun playing dress up. Like, I know I'm not the only one who made the most of walking the runway as a male fashion model. There's also nothing stopping you from going into the place guns blazing and trying to take out targets the old-fashioned way. To that end, there are all sorts of weapons that you can use. You begin most levels with a pistol and silencer, which makes it easy for you to assassinate targets without causing a commotion. There are also sniper rifles that let you take out targets from a distance. If you want to get a bit more cavalier about things, there are shotguns and automatic weapons that you can use to more easily take out multiple enemies. But this is going to attract a lot of attention and make you an easy target, so it's not ideal unless you're trying to escape a really tricky situation. Most of the time, you'll be better served by luring enemies out, by doing things like tinkering with objects so that they have to come and try to fix them, or by throwing a coin or some other object to get their attention. Discretion is the name of the game, and acting with subtlety will reward you in the long run. You are an assassin after all. Now that most of the major bugs have been worked out, I would have to say that Hitman World of Assassination is one of my favorite PSVR2 games. This is an easy game to pick up and play whenever you want. It's got an easy enough learning curve, and the sandbox level designs make the game highly replayable. I spent my first week in Paris just playing the level over and over again, familiarizing myself with the mechanics as I tried to unlock the various achievements. This is a pattern that repeated itself in later levels too, each of which is unique and interesting in its own way. Last thing to keep in mind is that not all of the content or modes from Hitman World of Assassination is VR compatible. There are rumors floating around that more VR content may be added in the future, but right now that appears to be nothing more than pure speculation. Regardless, the VR content that you can access right now is enough to keep you occupied for hours on end in the travel destination of your choice, with some leisurely assassinations on the side. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more VR content in the future. Thanks for watching and take care.
I'm you, thinking of 47 ways. to make you pay.